And welcome today for our 10th day of our 12 days of COP28. And this is our antidote to COP28, and we call on people to think about who's making the world better, who they think is making the world better, redirect their spending to them to encourage them and help them along. And the central piece of this is our prayer meditation, and we have Farzana today to lead us in that. So without much more ado, I'm going to leave you with Farzana. Farzana, are you able to connect? Okay, that's good. So we will have you be the center so that we can have you lead us.
Sir, I have shared with you my video. You can please just play on because my signals are very poor.
Okay, I'm going to try and find that. Oh, that was a.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes, I can hear you. Just give me one moment while I get that sorted. I think that was in there. So, Tim, do you want to just come in for a moment and Collins while I sort this out along? Tim Collins, are you there?
Yeah, great, David.
I need
thank you
to look. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone who is joining us. On our 10th day of our 12 days of COP, and this is our very integral segment where we are able to connect with nature, where we remind ourselves that we are sons and daughters of nature. That's where we belong, and we get an opportunity to connect with as well also with spirituality, the spiritual aspect of us. So it's really been interesting. It's really been a nice ride, 10 days into it, and looking forward to for the next 2 days as we culminate this. And Collins, maybe how has it been for you?
Hello. Yeah, it's a good morning, it's a good afternoon, it's a good evening to all our viewers. I'm glad to have a team with you, David, and hello to Farzana. Hope she can hear us well as David tries to work around, the technical bit of it.
Yeah. Can I ask where you share the video, Farzana? I'm trying to identify it at the moment.
Okay.
Oh, I see. Okay. Just one moment. I have only just seen it at this moment.
Okay.
Okay.
So
I'm extracting that video.
Hello.
Hello. I can hear you clearly, actually.
Yes, Collins, maybe if I may ask, for this particular segment, prayer and meditation, how has it been for you? What impact has it had in your life?
Sorry, I can't hear you properly. Please, can you play my video?
Yes. Farzana, we are going to do that. I've just seen it and I'm downloading it. I'm downloading the video, and then as soon as it's ready, then I will play that. And in the meantime, I will leave Collins and Tim to hold their conversation, and then I will take you and I off the screen for the moment, and then we'll join back in just a moment when the downloading has completed. So just stay with us off stage for a moment.
As you know, my name is Farzana. Activities with the elementary students. In Pakistan we badly need to calm down our children, and my school give me the opportunity to do the activities with them, and it is really work. So I'm really glad to the mindfulness activities is this subject is new in Pakistan, and I
This is actually
studies my
really interesting because
Okay. I think Farzana is having some trouble getting through, hearing us.
I have, yep, I have another
So
minute for you to download.
all right.
So
Thank
it
you.
will
So
in another countdown, we're going to get another countdown. It's going to be counting down to 50 seconds or so, and then we will be getting towards it.
all right.
So Tim, you were asking, what do you think about these segments for yourself?
Yes. I was asking Collins how this particular segment of prayer and meditation has impacted my life, and maybe if I can start, for me, this segment in particular, I think for one, it has helped me, manage my stress in the sense that when engaging in prayer, it has had a calming effect on the mind and body. Realizing that it's wisdom to surrender worries and seek support from a higher power, and this has a way of reducing stress and anxiety. Also, the meditation part as well has helped me, mind my body connection, whereby I've been able to be aware of the body and the breath, promoting a deeper connection between my mental and physical state. So it has been really an interesting segment, and has been able to have an impact in my life. I don't know your thoughts, gentlemen. How has it?
Okay, well we have it ready for us. So I'm going to bring Farzana onto the stage.
Okay.
All right.
Hi Farzana, we have it ready. So I'm going to play this for us.
Let's talk about why mindfulness is so helpful. In our busy lives, it is like a calm superhero, helping us focus, chill out, and be healthier.
Just going to create some room on my laptop because this is very large file. So I'm just going to take it back to the start, pause for a moment, think of mindfulness, and off we go.
Hi, friends. Let's talk about why mindfulness is so helpful. In our busy lives,
I think I need to create a bit of space on my computer. It's a rather large file today that we have to play. We have not had the opportunity to reduce it, so I'm just doing some work necessary to remove most of the things which are unnecessary on my laptop. So I have all of that, and then this is here. So let's try that.
let's talk about why mindfulness is so helpful. In our busy lives, it is like a calm superhero, helping us focus, chill out, and be healthier. Lots of people use it at work and school. Now let's see why it is useful for everyone. Mindfulness isn't just for grown-ups. Kids love it too. It helps them be strong, control feelings, and pay attention. For adults, it is like a super tool for handling stress, making good choices, and having better friendships. Now let's try 3 cool exercises made just for you, the grown-ups. Let's talk about why mind. So are you ready for the exercise number 1? Sit nicely, cross your legs, hand should be on your knees, spine should be straight. Okay? What you have to do, take a deep breath inside from your nose and take out from your mouth. Like this. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. Now this time, I'm going to use this ball. Just focus on the ball and you have to focus on the speed of the ball. When the ball will stretch like this, you will take a deep breath inside. When it will squeeze like this, you will take out your breath from your mouth. So are you ready? Let's start. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe out. Exercise number 2. Calming down. Look at this bottle. I'm going to shake it. Can you see the glitter inside? Just look towards the bottle. All the glitter is going down, down, down. Keep breathing. Can you see the transparent bottle? Yes, I'm going to do it one more time. I'm going to shake it, shake it, shake it. Now you can see the glitter inside. Keep breathing. You can see the transparent bottle now. One more thing I'm going to show you. Look at this jar. I'm going to shake it and just keep breathing. Look towards the jar and breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. You can see the transparent jar is here. I'm going to show you this glitter, full of glitter ball. You can see a creamy bubbles inside it. I'm going to shake it. Wow. Exercise number 3. Garden breathing. Suppose that we all are sitting in a garden. Take a flower in your hand and just smell the flower. And smell the flower like this. Breathe in. Breathe out. One more time. Smell the flower. Breathe in. Breathe in. One more time. Breathe in. Now, when we are sitting in the garden, so what we are going to do? This time, we are supposed to be a honeybee. We have to do like this. Hand should be like this. And I have a 2 honeybees like this. If you don't have, don't worry. Just do like this. Hand should be like this. And close your mouth, take a voice from your throat and feel the vibration there. Okay? And you have to buzz like a buzzing bee. Take a deep breath inside and you can hold your breath for a few seconds like this. Breathe in. One more time. Breathe in. Thank you. These were my 3 exercises. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I went through the exercises and I followed them. I hope you did too. And you know, it just kind of grounds you, sedates you in that way. It lets you have that pause and this part where you breathe in through your nose and you breathe out through your mouth. And then the movement at the end is actually really quite energizing in that way as well. So thank you, Farzana. So
Thank you very much. All these exercises, it is really designed only for the kids also, because the children love to do something new, and they want to learn with fun. So I made it the exercises because the children, they spend so much very short. So we need to calm down by these activities, and mashallah, it is working. These exercises do work.
yes, and I love the glitter, the sparkling part, and the way it settles, and it settles so quickly and just seems to takes over. Exactly, yes, it is amazing. It's just remarkable. Thank you very much for sharing your time and sharing your technique with us. We really appreciate that. It's been a very important moment for us. Thank you. And so I hope you two have had the chances with our audiences of enjoying that also. I'm going to leave this for the moment. And Collins, just to let you know, I'm working on the documentary and I'll indicate to you backstage when it's available and ready. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, David. And I'm glad having Farzana and taking the moment, as she mentioned, it's meant for children, but I feel like those kind of activities, team, they kind of also help us to, find a way of how we connect, we relate, and we get our minds focused. And yes, I really enjoyed it, and it's a learning also for me to take time in the busy schedule of this city to be able to meditate and find peace within. Yes, Tim.
Yeah, sure, Collins. It's been a great moment where you just pause for a time and you just connect with nature, connect with a higher being rather than you. And it's really an interesting moment. It's such a so therapeutic, if I may put it that way. And
Yeah.
yeah, we've made it to the 10th day. Well, it's been
Yes.
a journey. How do you feel?
Yeah, it's been great getting to hear amazing work from the different parts of the world.
Yeah.
Prayer and meditation, inspiring stories about what people are doing across with regards to climate action and making the world better. And of course, a chance to also have fun with the comedy, David Richard, and the comedy section that comes along. It's usually at night in Kenya, and I find it following through YouTube, and yeah, it's a way that we are actually be able to communicate serious issues using comedy. I found it to be also very inspirational in a way and special. Yeah,
Okay, great. I cannot agree with you. I cannot agree more with you, Collins, on that. It's been an awesome. It's been a great experience, and probably I think after the 12 days, I'll have to readjust my system because it will take time to. I'm used to tuning in at five East African time here, so maybe on 13 I might find myself joining in, to our audience and trying to connect with them. But anyway, it's been
yeah,
great. It's been a great journey, and I'm enjoying every bit of it. So today, Collins, to our viewers, we have aligned a couple of conversations, interesting conversation. We'll be having some live guests, a live guest who is Hawi Rapudo, doing incredibly amazing job, as in connecting young people with opportunities available in the technology, in the tech area. But to start us off, we'll have an interesting conversation that took place, between Father Steve and Father Steve, who works at the UN, and David, and they're just trying to see how they can be how having a conversation on how we can be able to um, come up, address this issue of oil, coal, and gas in a more genuine and an honest way. And I know it was just an interesting way how we can actually even use it, not fall to the bait of allowing people to the bait of what do you call it, carbon credits, which essentially is just to you're getting someone is getting a right to continue polluting the environment. So it's an interesting conversation which I want us to enjoy, and you just listen from it. So I hope you enjoy this, and connect with you after this conversation.
It's an investment background, looking after our common home and all of those things. The one thing that fundamentally we think we're not properly addressing is how do you wind down the existing infrastructure and the existing dependencies on oil and gas and coal. And the aspect that we come from is that unless you take ownership of them, whoever owns them is, if you paid money for them, you want some money back. Basically, it's very simple thing. Yeah. And if you take a look at what's happening in Venezuela today, I don't know if you followed the news. They recently, a few days ago, had a referendum over a piece of their neighbor, the land that's a piece of their neighbor, and Guyana, and it's unsure what will happen as a result, because the referendum result was they claim territorial rights over it. They claim it's part of theirs, and they've done so because that piece of land recently had big discoveries of oil and gas. Mm. So, so you can't ignore the fact that everywhere from Uganda to Ghana to Venezuela to everywhere you can think of, 47 of the countries out on the continent of Africa are actively exploring for oil and gas and coal. And so our side was, how can you manage that? How can you do that? Before I go on further, I wanted to ask, just what are your thoughts, and maybe something understanding better about where you are, your position, and it's permanent that you are with UNAP or the Holy See Office, or how does it work for you in where you are?
Okay, because at the moment, under our office and the Holy See, we have, for the non-proliferation treaty of oil and gases, because these gases and the fossil fuel are choking the world. And as you say, we must try to help keep them underground. And that means you have to do something, because those countries claim that that is the way they can be able to develop. That is the way they can be able to earn money, and therefore they are so hell-bent on making it work. And I was telling you yesterday in the chat, you remember the president of the COP28 himself said that there's no science behind exploration of oil. So to mean that they are not planning to stop it anytime soon, and therefore we must raise voices. Even during the COP, the speech of the Pope that was given on his behalf by Cardinal Pietro Parolin, the Secretary of State, he mentioned about the world stopping the use of fossil fuel, and especially extraction and beginning new extractions, because the issue is that there are those that have been going on that needs to be closed, but also there are new ones that are still being explored and they begin new extractions in different parts of the world, and all the byproducts that they produce, all the carbon emissions, and now there's this coming issue in the name of carbon credit that is, for me, is a license to pollute. Because somebody says, I have paid for the carbon credits in another country in Africa, yes, therefore I can continue doing what I want. It's like saying I can pay for the carbon footprint and fly as much as I want because I already paid for it. But that the effects it brings is still very cross-cutting for everybody, because the pollution continues to go, and then sometimes even the deals that, because we are saying that we are also trying to alleviate poverty, because there are people who suffer from the adverse effects of and even so much hurt by the loss and damage, the first thing that was passed on the first day of the COP. And people are promising money, but they're promising money because they are continuing to polluting the environment. So I'm going to pay and I continue. So there's no solution to the problems that are happening, because money is everything according to them. So long as I pay my 100 million to those people, then I continue doing whatever I have been doing well and good. And therefore, as you say, that we have to find a way of keeping those oil and gases and coal where they are, so that they don't get being exploited, being excavated and the rest, because and that means that we also must find a way in what do we do with these other countries, because those people, like for example the oil project in Uganda and Tanzania, the ECOP, the East African oil pipeline, and they say the longest heated pipeline in the world, about 1,500 kilometers, passing through homes, through water bodies, and all the adverse effects that it may bring. The other day, yesterday, I was seeing that some people were charged in court for not allowing their lands to be used. They didn't even know that they were charged. So only to be informed on 8th, they're supposed to appear in court, I think on Monday, and the case was mentioned on 4th, and they didn't even know that they have been charged. So yet the land was yours. So all this adverse effect that is being brought by this, and all that this issue will bring through. So you see, there's one problem also that Uganda has cut, for example, Uganda cut ties with Kenya because Uganda is a landlocked country. So they need Kenya for the port, for the oil, and they had a disagreement. And you see, if they use the port in Dar es Salaam or in Tanga, it's a very far distance that they still need to use Kenya and for all that. And therefore, they need to, they are hell-bent that this ECOP must work, because that is the only way. If they don't use Kenya, they have to bring the oil from the Tanzanian side to the Ugandan side. So we must also help to get a solution, because now we are trying to create, as I was saying, the integration of these countries, but then they still don't agree on the trade terms, on the business terms. And this is mostly actually caused by corruption. When they broke the ties, they said that they pay $31 extra to what they're supposed to pay when the fuel comes to this country, because not of the country, but the cartels who are bringing the fuel. So, you know, we're talking about a better world where people are conscious of what they're doing, that, you know, the ripple effect, because you see now, this is a ripple effect for a whole country. So we want a better world that, as we talk about the stopping of the fuel, of the oils and all these, when we stop them, are we going to have a better world where people are consciously aware of the effects of what they do, the effects of the climate, the effects to humanity, to the poor, to those people who are hustling, who have no food, who, instead of having one meal a day, have 1 meal in 2 days. Yes. So my take is that we must create a conscious mind and a live one to all of us in all classes of life.
I think in that way, where we come from is clearly we have an agreement with, you know, what you talk about and what we think of, and from our side, we have a much more pragmatic attitude, which comes from our investment background, which is, you know, if I'm an investor and I'm buying into oil, for example, you know, Tullow Oil has explorations in, you know, Kenya itself, for example, as well as West Kenya, even Ngami 1 field there. And the aspect of it is that we need a mechanism in order to actually bring about an end to two sides. One side is that the current production, how do we reduce the current production of oil, gas, and coal? And the other side is the reserves. How do we reduce the recognized reserves of oil, gas, and coal in that way? And if we don't have a mechanism that can be actually used, which doesn't depend on agreements between countries as a global country, because we know that you're not going to get, what's that phrase? Turkeys don't vote for Christmas. You know, the onus as being demonstrated by the countries that depend on oil. So next year, the chances are COP29 will be in Azerbaijan. 90% of the export revenues of Azerbaijan comes from oil and gas. So again, it's going to be in a country which is which its own people has to depend on oil and gas to live. So they are caught by essentially what we consider as an economic trap that we have unwittingly created for ourselves over time, without knowing. If we had known before this was going to happen, we may not have done it. But now we're caught in this trap, and depending on who it is, and the people, the only agency we can see that genuinely has the authority and the voice to be able to bring about the transformation are the individual people. It goes down to our consent to listen to our planet, as the Pope describes in Laudato Deum and Laudato Si, really that care of our common home over a time scale that is not an electoral cycle, that is not a political electoral cycle, but over a time scale that is together, that is in connection with nature's sense of time. These assets, we want them, these minerals, we want them to stay in the ground on a permanent basis. We now recognize the importance of maintaining rainforests for all generations. We need to recognize them as maintaining oil and gas and coal as mineral assets, which for all generations do not come back out in that way. So that's, for us, is an economic as well as a scientific and a social problem. And we know you can buy mineral rights, and the ownership of mineral rights can keep them in the ground. And we know that the fair way to approach those buying of mineral rights is that they are essentially bought as global commons. It's not good that a rich person buys them, because the rich person will bequeath it to their children, and then you don't know what the children will do, and so on.
Sure.
So you do not want it in those sort of forms. We have, unfortunately, at the same time, faced a certain messaging issue, in the sense that most people feel that they are too big to be approached in that way. On the other side, from our investment side, a more cynical sort of investment side, we also know that the companies, if I'm setting up a fund in order to buy them for exploitation, I will price in all the protests. I will price in money to keep the lawsuits going for 2 decades, 3 decades. If I think I have got 2 decades worth of exploration out of this, I will price in how long would I need, and I will get my strategists working on how to keep those conversations going, much like ECOP. You mentioned ECOP. You know, the lawsuits that are going on there are part of the understanding, are part of the pricing already. So we need an approach that actually goes on forward a little bit differently. And that's where we end up basically saying we want to understand, talk to people about how together we can bring about the awareness of being able to create a market to keep them in the ground. So that people, individuals, can see that, you know, for example, if I gave the example that if such a market existed, where just the same as I can buy a tree, the land where trees growing, and actually keep the tree growing, as opposed to chopping it down, as someone else can buy the land where trees going and chop the tree down. I can go ahead and be able to say, you know, if I'm getting married and I propose to my fiance in that way, and we go and we get a wedding ring, which is typically, you know, a significant spend in that sense, a very meaningful spend. It's not so much as it's very meaningful. That a part of that money can go towards keeping them in the ground. And the value I get from it, what is the value proposition here? The value proposition is in my commitment to my spouse to face uncertainty for together, we take action. And the action here we take is a commitment that together we also commit to our planet. That's why we buy it in that sense. That's why we spend that money in that way. And when Richard and I worked out how much money you actually need, the current situation, even though the prices have risen a lot over the last year as a result of the conflicts and the horse trading that came about, is that they are still a very small sector of our global wealth. And in terms of the kind of money, if you amortize it so that you can consider as a contribution each year that goes along in that sense, it takes something like 1 day's worth of the world's spending, less than that, in order to people go to someone who is an owner currently and say, because when you buy from an existing owner, and essentially say to them, I appreciate that you need the money, so we can get money essentially from the world spending, and will you sell? Now, if they do not sell, then they are basically being asked to answer the question for themselves as the owner. What do I really want? At the moment, owners step behind the company because we approach the company. But companies, as one of our conversations over the past week have shown from Adam Wasserman from the US, who is a very experienced lawyer, who is now working in a setup that he has created called FinPublica to help companies address the issues of sustainability as a tool to help them be better in that way. And he says, you know, companies are just artificial constructs, really is people. And that's the part where the messaging and the approach have failed to appreciate. You can't go to a company and say, what do you really want? Because a company is just a piece of paper that has got signatures on it that basically mandates the executives of the company to follow the wishes of its owners. But you can go to the owners and says, what do you really want? If it's money you need, let us provide you with that. But if it is the burning of these oil and gas and coal in order to pollute and poison our planet and everybody on it, if that is what you want, then you have to face up to it and say it. And that's an honesty that they need to face on their part. And by creating a market to keep oil, gas, and coal in the ground, make it possible that they are forced to ask that question. And that for the governments themselves. And when this comes from the citizens of the governments of the countries to ask that question, the leaders of the governments are now being put into a position where they have to ask themselves, if my citizens through the capital markets is taking this action, where does my authority come from them in that way on this question? So this is, you know, the practical aspect of, can you actually create such a market and so on? You can create a market in anything, as we've seen in the past few years, you know, with the various metaverse type things. You know, you can create a market where you buy, in sometimes past, you can create a market where you can buy a piece of land on the moon or on Mars or something. You can create a market on basically anything you like. Here is a genuine market that's based on the actual physical rights in that way. So it's the tangible thing, because all these things are tangible minerals. And people like Global Energy Monitor have mapped out what they all are. And in fact, the big investment banks are extremely knowledgeable about these things in that way. And plenty, Restart Energy, there are plenty of organizations and firms that actually know exactly, you know, how much gets pumped out, how much is licensed in this field. There's all the geological surveys and so on. So it is actually quite a practical and pragmatic thing to be able to do. The part where Richard and I have felt when we've talked about it before is that there is an awareness barrier to cross over. And that's the barrier to cross over, to say, for people to say, actually recognize that this is possible to do. And whether you have, and also an awareness barrier to say that actually we really absolutely need to do this. So two sides, the reserves, and the other side, the current productions. From the current productions, the approach can become one where if you bring on so much renewable energy, it should be possible for a pricing to be established so that that amount of energy is taken off the current production. Some fraction of that. So if we triple our renewable energy by 2030, as is the call out of the COP meetings, that extra 2 units that we're getting on top of the one that we have, which is what tripling it, should correspond to taking off some fraction of that 2 unit from oil and gas and coal. And the interesting thing is Richard and I did a straw poll on LinkedIn to see what people think, whether they think it should be 100% replacement. You know, if you create a kilowatt hour, you take out a kilowatt hour, right? Should it be 50% so that you get some increase in energy still, you take off half of it, or none of it, or whether they should both increase? And the response out of that poll is people feel they should both be increasing. So people have bought into this idea of reducing the energy mix, which you can achieve by increasing both still. And they have bought that story more importantly than the idea that actually we have to reduce them. So one part of that awareness is be able to communicate the story to say it's not just the energy mix. It is the actual quantity that we need to focus on. And when we focus on the actual quantity, we bring about a different awareness of how we use our energy and what is the transformation transitions we each find is appropriate for us. So that's one part of this, of being able to communicate that, understanding how to come about that. The other part is this aspect then of saying, if it is the actual quantity and we do need energy along, then what's the most appropriate sort of way to help people with their livelihoods? That's different from saying what's the most appropriate way to help people with their energy. And the big business world has operated on it to say that let's focus on the energy because I can deliver energy and I can make money from it, and government can subsidize me to put up a solar farm and a wind farm and so on. But for many people in areas which currently are not served by big energy grids, or where the energy grids do not have the infrastructure at the moment to support a lot of those things, it's not addressing the livelihoods of the people in the access to the energy that they can alternatively find. So that again becomes a case where the important question has been sidelined, because it is much easier to talk of a lot of money being needed than how can we actually provide individuals with their dignity, that they have livelihoods in that way. But we need to address that, because if we don't address that, then we cannot have the support of people to think that they can have a world without oil and gas and coal. And so the two for us come simultaneously. And then the other part, then the very big important question of how can we create this market of keeping oil and gas and coal in the ground, is one of desire, is one of asking people to say, do we really want this? Can we have this? And this is where our conversation, I would really like to get a sense of, how can we continue this conversation and bring on other people and help find some ways to approach this and have people really to say, yes, this makes sense, we would like to do this. It addresses the question you say of carbon credits, for example. The current situation, carbon credit is you grow your tree so that we can burn. And we know the fire will eventually burn over to the trees we grow. So basically, it's just a delay. In that way, it's even worse than that. It rationalizes an evil action, which is the inaction of having to face our own transformation.
Sure.
By saying we burn in that way. And this aspect of saying, actually, what happens is we make the credit out of keeping them in the ground. Then we are saying, even if you have to use it at the moment, these credits tell you will not be able to continue to do this. It is like when I have there are two ways to look after your teeth, basically. One is keep going to the dentist and, kind of keep buying expensive toothpaste and all the rest of it. The other is be careful with your diet, don't have all the fizzy drinks, kind of make sure you
brush.
you brush well, but and even when you brush, I was with a friend who was a Maasai, and he showed me how he uses this particular twig. You chew it until it's soft, and then you can use that to brush along and so on. And we are of the part where we think where if we have a tube of toothpaste and we know that that's coming to an end and that's all we have in there, then we have to look about how the food we eat and everything else we do in order to try and keep our teeth clean. From having the damages in that way too. And that's where a credit that actually comes from saying, look, this is bringing about the end of these minerals from being burned, prompts people to start thinking, hang on a minute, I now have to change. And it actually opens up many other opportunities and innovations, because now instead of just simply saying we need to produce more energy, we're now being asked to say, actually, how am I using the things around me? How am I dependent on that? For example, a barrel of oil does not just produce the gas, the petrol, the gasolines and diesels and kerosene that we eat there. It also produces the materials, enough materials to make 29 T-shirts. And we use over 100 million barrels a day, which means each day we have, out of that 29 million, 2.9 billion T-shirts each day. The oil that's being produces 2.9 billion T-shirts. So when we address the issue of the fashion industry and the effects of it, it is entirely about whether we can actually have a market to keep oil, gas, and coal in the ground. If we do that, then we will have to actually ask, do I want to buy an extra T-shirt? How many of those should I have? How do we go back to times when actually maybe we need different materials in that way and we get better connected in those things? When we address the issues of plastics, they again come in that way. We then actually, when we address the issue of oil and keeping the reserves of oil in the ground, then we have to address the issues not just of how we clean up from the plastics, but actually that they will not keep being produced. And we want the land for our food and for our forests, so that we will not simply be able to go along and deforest just to grow more corn and soya and for the fibers in that way. So we have to address how we actually use our materials in those things. So these aspects are all connected along together, and they're all connected ultimately from our side. What we want to bring about is the dialogue to say, can we create a market to keep oil, gas, and coal in the ground? So that can support the non-proliferation cause. That can become a genuine practical mechanism that essentially goes along with the non-proliferation cause, and through it allow individuals to express this in a very practical way, and that can then feed back into the government, into the discussion. Actually then say, look, it is happening, we can do this. And if you think about practically what it means, for example, and how it can be done and so on, it ultimately is about being able to reach a large body of consumers, to say, are you interested in doing this? When you go to a concert, Taylor Swift concert, would you be interested in having that? If you watch the World Cup football, are you interested in? Would you prefer to watch the teams where the part of your ticket goes to keep oil, gas, and coal in the ground? That's how you can engage in this. When you buy your groceries and your tomatoes. Again, not only do you just buy the ones which are produced from your community, but would you prefer that a part of your spending actually goes to keep oil, gas, and coal in the ground in that way? And that's how the expression of the desire to do this allows investors to go along and actually put up the initial capital to take on the risk of how it is. But whilst people do not necessarily think there is that opportunity, they don't. There is a company that is doing this with coal, where they convert, not mining them into carbon credit, and it's a much better way of carbon credit. It's the only genuine, sensible credit that we can think of, because here you're not burning, as opposed to grow the trees and we burn. Here it says, we're not burning, so you can grow the trees.
Yeah.
It's very simple. It just sort of turns the two sides of the left side to the right side of the equation, and all of a sudden they make sense. But that itself, within the regulations and things, addresses the current production, and the current production, addressing the current production, does not change the fact that you still need to address the reserves, and you significantly need to take down the reserves for people to feel actually they are ending. We are coming to the end, which is where the non-proliferation comes. The non-proliferation is really talking about the side of saying we do not want these to be further explored and stuff. And by creating such a market, you can then ring fence what there is at the moment and say everything outside it is now excluded from effectively this. You can label these because these are physical assets. So people can then know, you know what, these further explorations will have no market.
Sure.
From where we are. So I think to bring back to this, I think what we would like to ask is how can we go about communicating with people about ideas like this? Who are the people that may be appropriate to speak to? How can we engage in those conversations to come up with an effective communication strategy, something that can actually reach out to people in a very simple way? Keep them in the ground so you grow your forests.
I want to pick from what you've said that most of our countries have already been compromised. So government is not going to work out. So as you say, it's based on individuals. And I want to think of two things: having a moral or ethical perspective and the financial, because they have projected, the good thing that every time they say maybe this field contains 1 million barrels. So it is something that can be calculated financially that we can invest in, and say that from 1 million barrels, you are projecting $10 billion, for example. Then if we pay you $10 billion plus any of the miscellaneous, then that one can be worked out as an investment or financially. But also the moral part of it, that we are doing this for the sake of the better world of saving humanity. So we sell both ideas of it, financial gain to the people who would have wanted to exploit for their financial greed, and also for the sake of humanity, because as we talk about that, we also bring in the issue of just transition, because we also have to bring the ethical, just and equal and fair transition from this, because it's very funny that our countries that claim to want to do the renewable energy still put high taxes on electric vehicles, electric bicycles, and the rest. So you wonder, how do you tell us that we want to have a free gas, free oil by this year, according to the projection, but yet the things that are supposed to bring this into fruition are still being charged high taxes? And therefore, as we check on this model of having an investment and an ethical dimension of it, and as you say, we need to sell this to the people, because the problem, actually, one of the things we're talking about, in my class of integration, we're talking about the Brexit, and they're saying that the elites of the society had brought together the countries in the EU, but one thing that the masses didn't know how they gain from it, especially the youths. because it opened wide the gates of every country to the European citizens. And therefore, you see, like most of the youths voted not to stay in the EU because they felt that now since the doors are open, people will come, we lose our own jobs, and all this. And therefore, we need to have an information to the masses that they know how much this affects. Because, for example, they're going to be told that you're going to pay you for the carbon credit. Somebody gives you maybe $100 just for your trees you planted for yourself. So you don't feel anything that it is bad. Actually, you are gaining, but not knowing that this from one day will come from just burning the gases to burn your own trees when they don't have anything more to burn. And therefore, we should bring this information to the people. We can have, as you always say, that we can have short videos. We can have also forums. For example, we train Laudato Si members, people. We have what we call Laudato Si animators. So after finishing the training, we have what we call continental now groups. In continental groups, we have meetings every quarterly. So maybe we can also organize. I think we're having a meeting before the end of this month where we can create time and request them maybe for even 15 minutes so that you can also speak. You see, we are about 100 of us. 100 of us are ambassadors to 1 million people, because if every 100 person get another 100 people, they have forums where they meet. This individual meet the forum of other people with other women in the group, and we bring a change on this. So my biggest contribution is to have both financial and ethical dimension of it, that we tell the people the adverse effects of this thing that we are doing now, that when you are selling to us this oil field, you are not losing. Actually, you are making a better world for the generations to come, because you, as you sell this, you have the generation of your grandchildren and all this. If this is exploited, they'll have nowhere to live, because we are talking about
absolutely.
the 1.5 and we can't keep it anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, Richard and I, we wrote a book that's called The Unsustainable Truth, and that's the book along there. It's, and what it tells is essentially how our investments do not achieve the objectives we want. And when people come along, as you talk about, you know, the investment of carbon credit and so on, we start from good intentions, but the chain of it ultimately ends up typically doing much more harm than the good we intended along. And it's not because we intend badly. You know, when people go along and create those carbon credits and things, the initial ideas typically were very good. It's just that it then gets legitimized and then it gets used as rationalizations for the actions that we take, and then the chain propagates on in as this typical in unintended fashion, and it sort of goes and explores that, and it goes back actually to St. Augustine in trying to understand about what does it mean that we need to do. It goes back to Aquinas and Augustine in that way. And Augustine singularly, because of his realization when he talked about free will and choice, of the fact that good is not about the intention of doing good, but it's about acceptance of our limits, as opposed to feeling that if we try to get through our limits, we try to be more than who we are in a sense. What we end up doing is we end up trapping ourselves. In that way, and that was very significant, because in a world where we face the challenges and we want to understand what equity and justice means, it has to mean having room that another person can have the dignity they need, they deserve in that way. And that means there are limits to what I myself should be entitled to have, so that they can have their dignity in that way. And that really goes back down to sort of our understanding of Augustine in that way, in that sense. And this aspect of Aquinas came in through that, because he had these 4 conditions of good, and they all had to be met. And amongst those 4 conditions is that the consequences of what you do must also not lead to any harm. So the intentions of the carbon credits in the way we have them today is good, and the implementations may be good in building a forest, and the outcome of that in its immediate effect providing you with money may also be a good thing. But the consequence of it, with other people taking that as a way to go and burn and pollute and continue on, is not good. And so to Aquinas' view, that action cannot be good. But in our economic world, we take it to be if any one of those four conditions is satisfied, then it is good. So we take it to say, if you're growing a forest, then it's good. If you've got some money, then it's good. And we don't have to consider the whole aspects of all of those. So we kind of talked about how from even before Adam Smith, the situations of kind of how economics developed and how that take us into current situations where we've separated all those parts to how we bring it all back together and going forward. So in terms of that communication, I think being able to speak with the Laudato Si animators, as you say, would be a really good opportunity. What I think we want to be able to do is to bring together. Faiths are important because faith hold on to the sense that we are the children of creation, and we are not its master. And that, again, is a very important aspect towards why we want to do this. It's expressed from a humanist perspective of simply saying that I may want to be the steward of tomorrow rather than be the master of tomorrow in that way. And bringing together somehow relevant people into that broad discussion, having that sense of the best way to approach communications before we go out essentially with the big communications in that way. And today what I've come to find is that over the past 2 years where Richard and I have come from, the most ineffective use of money is to try and approach the sort of public relations in the normal way, because they're very expensive and they're all locked into the current agenda. They really only want to communicate in a way that promotes their other businesses, and their other businesses is burning oil, gas, and coal. That's where the bulk of the money of these things, a lot of them lie. So it becomes a whole waste. But the aspect of communications, the effective communications in today's world, is that, again, is through that communications among people, amongst communities, allow that to spread out, allow that for the conversations to be had and the understanding to develop before actually kind of going out, so that it comes out all together in that way. So I think that, being able to speak with the Laudato Si animators, as you described, and having them think about, okay, how to communicate, who else might that be? Who are the other groups? What's the way to bring about the sort of opportunities and forums and talking about it in that form? So we want to really ask, kind of from your perspective, both in terms of kind of your association with people within sort of the UNAP, and also across the Laudato Si and the officers of the Holy See, and the communications with all the other faiths. This integration aspect that you talked about, Brexit, we went straight through it. It's not a story of fear from where we come from. It's a reality. It's a story of facing a truth. The world is changing. The consequences of that, and if we are to navigate our way through, which and I describe it as is a migration. It's like wildebeest undergoing through a migration across the continent. It starts at different points and it comes about at different paces, but everybody, all of the wildebeest find their way along with it. And so we need to give room for people to find their space and find their way with it. But for it to be successful, we have to make sure that we stem the flow of oil and gas and coal, because otherwise the fire will still be burning and will overrun our efforts to migrate.
Mm.
So that's the part where we wanted to appreciate that that is the case, but we want to bring out the reason for doing it is not a fear. It is a calling.
Yeah.
As opposed to a fear. It is a calling to that richer world and better future. It's a calling to reconnect with nature, to reconnect with communities. And that's where this is coming from. That's why I like to think of that example of the marriage. You know, when we buy our wedding ring, do we want to also make a commitment to our planet with that?
Sure.
And if we're willing to spend a month's wages on each other as a commitment to each other, what are we willing to spend as a commitment to our planet too? And if we have that, we address the fundamental issue that the owners of these minerals currently face, and the governments and everyone else. We need money to work for us in helping the planet heal.
Yeah.
And that includes money to stem the flow of the poison, as well as money to help with the therapy and the treatments.
Yeah.
So, and at the moment we're caught because we need the money from the poison, which is the problem.
It is a lot. It is coming. You see, the way they gave a lot of it even during the COP. And
Yes.
for the first time, even nearly every country have a pavilion, which I think they even given them out. I remember during the last ended INC3, the Intergovernmental Committee on Plastics, negotiation on plastics. One of the countries that is oil rich held, what is it called? Reception daily for the all days of the meeting, so that they can be able to influence people. Some of the countries that are also oil rich came with delegates from their oil factories. So imagine we want to make an instrument that burns plastic, yet you have brought people who are in charge of creating plastics. So that money, that poison money has been injected into the world, and it is buying especially leaders of the world in Africa, because they go, and it's not like the concessions, the loans that they get from the IMF, and this one comes into grant, so they pick them very easy.
Yeah. So I think for us, we don't want to. We think our skills, for Richard and I, our skills is not in that sort of protest activism. Our skills lies in discovering, innovating in the markets, in saying how can we actually create a market, so that protest, the desires of that behind that protest activism can be turned into altering the economy, into the economic practices. And that's to come to the market. I can buy minerals to ruin the planet. I should be able to buy them to conserve it. Then I have a choice. Then you have a choice. And you are now then in position really to be able to ask, what do I really want? And then I will have the choices of saying, I want to make life horrible on one side, or I want to make life better on the other. Whereas at the moment, we are all caught in this situation. Well, we want to make life better, but the only choice we have takes us to making it worse.
Yeah.
So finding that communication is the best way to think about bringing that along, being able to have that be incorporated within kind of the phrases that people can use and voices, to be able to have that expressed all the way through from the individual to the communities, to the small businesses, to the large businesses, in that way. And ultimately, where we come from is, the mathematics of the calculations is very simple. Businesses need customers, and the customer is always right.
Sure.
And it's up to us to say how we want to pay for the goods we purchase and the products we use, and how we want to decide on that. And even it's not about the big people with the big money. It is simply about, you know, where we buy our tomatoes from in that way too, as much as where I go, you know, which football team I watch, I want to support, how I want to travel, and recognizing that in our world today, we still need, you know, I spoke with a young lad who was helping us with It's For You, and he went on a trip. He went around Asia with some of his friends. He's in his 20s, early 20s, and wants to explore. And it's not about not being able to do those things. It's about how we can do those things and be healing that planet along. That aspect comes into what we think of as being in the limit, as taking away the reserves, so everybody knows. And how at the front of it with the production, we're able to say, if we've created this amount of new clean energy, we're actually taking that action to replace some of the dirty, bad energy we've created. So what do you think is a step that would be sensible to take as a next step? What do you think is the
next step for me first is to inform them. We need the individuals to be able to bring this idea to the people. Because you already have a financial background, that you can work the nitty-gritties of how it can work financially, but also let the people about keeping the oils, keeping everything that in your farm, because even in these places we find somebody has his own farm, not even leave government farms for oil, but there's this mining taking place and the rest. So somebody just come and start this small mining. So if we tell them that, yes, you have the farm, we can be able to have an agreement of you investing in this farm by not extracting the minerals, but maybe by farming on it, and you get paid something for owning that farm, knowing that this mineral will be under the ground. We're going to extract it, and because it's going to erode the soil. And therefore, my step is that we do information sessions, that we bring this to the people. And I will begin by, I'm going to talk to the members of the Secretariat of the Africa Laudato Si movement, that we can allocate some time during the meeting that you're going to have. And then I will get back to you about the date. And then we can have a talk with them, because that is how we start slowly. When we also have the next time they arrange for the literacy training, we can also request for time. Now this training will have now new people, and the good thing with the training, it is during the training we train people from all over the world. Only when we have finished training, like we have finished now, when they graduate, now they are divided according to their continents. But during the normal training, we have a training for all of them all over the world, from the Americans, from all the continents. Another thing we can do as part of information, if we can have a video that already explains something, I can, and then they're either in YouTube somewhere, I can just drop them in the groups, because we have groups for countries. So that already brings the information to the people. Even before we talk to them in the meeting, they already have a background of what we're going to talk about. So so we have a problem with many people doesn't want to listen or to read. So they just want things short. So if the videos are shorter, the better. Somebody sees 20 minutes, say, hey, I'm going to take 20 minutes listening to this. So if maybe it is 5 with a clear agenda on that, then we'll be able, I can drop them in all those. We have about 10 groups of different countries that people we have trained. We have about 1,000 Laudato Si members in the whole continent. So you see, that is already a way to be able to reach the rest of the world. So mine is about knowledge. especially what we talk about. I remember even at the COP, the Holy See, one of his position was about intergenerational dialogue and also the
Yes.
transfer of knowledge and technology.
Yes. Okay. So we do have a video that we put together in that way, and it's it's 15 minutes that has Richard and I just recently talked about kind of our thoughts. I'll just put that into our WhatsApp, and we made it into a short link along in that way, and so that it's easy, and we call it a new approach. I just send you a link into our WhatsApp there.
Okay, I'll watch it, and then I'll drop it to all the groups that I am in.
Yeah, so that's that side of it, and obviously what we ideally want is for the people in the groups to really kind of contribute to help and think, okay, if this sort of makes sense, how is the way to make a better video? If you follow what I mean, because this is not Richard and my skills is not really in this way. How do we make it into like 2 minutes and be even more effective, and get the right mood to it? And our mood is not of fear; it's of coming together. My sense, and I spoke of this before with people, is ultimately the challenges we face is about the things that give us joy. It's about our desire for the things that give us joy. It's about our actions together to preserve the things that give us joy, and it's also to do it through connecting ourselves better with the things that give us joy. And when we think about what those are, we generally end up all in the common place. It's our communities, it's our relationships to each other. It's as Sister Immaculate was talking about yesterday. It's that element of going from hope to peace to joy to love. In that way. So I see it, and the shape I wanted, and the picture that I wanted is not a story of fear or of anger, but of kind of reconnecting with the essence of why these challenges, why it takes crisis for us to reach back to God. In my own kind of personal expression of it, in my own way, it takes these crises for us to come on through. Jonah need to be swallowed by the whale.
Something has to happen for some things to also work out.
Yes. So therefore, this is the way that we see, and for us to be able to come forward, the approach we have is essentially it goes along this line that this way allows us to have a pragmatic approach that as we start it brings a different perspective of how we can face this using the tools that we have. We spend money, and we spend money to when we are able to buy a house, a piece of land for ourselves, we buy to conserve it in order so that we have it for others along. And some of that conservation is very simply, don't cut down that trees, don't dig all the soil and things out of here, because you still need the land around. And just because, and very importantly, back to that element that from St. Augustine, just because it's possible to exploit it doesn't mean that's the thing to do. There are limits, and if we can abide by the limits, we end up actually having a new discovery and a new awareness of what it is to be us. So I think that's the essence of kind of behind that message of what this market is. And it seems like a strange thing because we're used to the idea of markets to exploit, whereas this is a market to protect and conserve, to shepherd in that way. Thank you for your time.
You're most welcome, and thank you too.
and please get in touch with what you suggest.
Yes, I'm just going to send them a message on WhatsApp now. Then by evening, I'll have got back to you.
Yeah, and the link there gives them that presentation we did there, and it goes along through. I think gives a good explanation. It also gives a couple of clips there from Preston, who is actually engaged in doing this in the US.
Yeah.
And the aspect from where Richard and I think is, how do we make this into something that everybody can see? You know what? There is the possibility. It's not just the placard. We can actually bring it about.
Yeah.
And we can bring it about through people. By creating a new market.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
Yeah, most welcome. So I'm watching it now, then I'll share with them. I send an email to the group, then I'll get back to you the response.
Okay, thank you very much.
Welcome, and thank you, and have a blessed day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Collins, that was Father Stephen, David, having a great conversation on creating a market where, we're able to put oil and, coal and gas, where it belongs, that is underground. What's your thought on that?
Yes, Tim, it's been a very interesting conversation. And I think for me, three things that I pick from, that. I think the first one is, the pivotal role of the faiths and the religious community in the matters to do with the environment and climate change. And most of course, as Father Steve has mentioned, the consciousness and the awareness of the actions that we take, they have some consequences in it. And it just means, in most cases we have talked about, just transition, climate democracy, environmental justice. And these issues actually hinge primarily on the role of religion to bring the hope and even the ethical, aspects of what we are actually supposed to do and not to do. So I think for me that's what comes out. Secondly, which actually David mentioned it, is just to reflect on who actually has the power. And I remember David mentioned that when you hear of the oil companies, you tend to realize that okay, these are huge, these are big people somehow, and it brings in the aspect of fear in terms of can we actually face them? And his idea about who actually has the power, for me, it's a true message to just sit, reflect, and think through the power in the spending, like who has the power to spend, in a way that if we are a billion people and we are buying one tomato for 1 shilling, so who has the power? It means actually we have the power to actually manage a crisis. It just depends on how, because David mentioned about the awareness barrier, and which I agree. And I think it's important to have this kind of conversation all along. Lastly, what I got that is about the actions is actually that we are not burning so that if you plant trees. So that was interesting for me in a way that probably a problem what having. So are you planting? Do I have to keep on polluting so that you keep planting the tree, or you are planting the tree because you have other reasons about that? So very interesting ideas around that, and the economics that emerge from that also as well. I'm looking forward to getting this discussion also. What about you, Tim?
Great, interesting. I share the same sentiment with you, and for me, I think is the fundamental question that David asked. That suppose you have, suppose your teeth are not okay, do you have to regularly you go see a dentist, or do you have to change your diet and get rid of the fizzy drinks and something of the sort? So I think that's a fundamental question that all of us ought to ask ourselves, even as we have this candid conversation on looking after our common home. Because I think Father Steve put it that the president of COP said that there is no science behind the use of oil. And from his sentiment, in Father Steve's words, he meant that they're not willing probably to get rid of exploring oil, and that's why they're introducing the carbon credits. It's essentially is just getting the permit to continue using more oil. But you see, with that, the problem is that it's we keep doing that. It's the regular visit to a dentist. You have a tooth that is aching. You have something, a tooth that is bad, and you regularly go visit a dentist. In the long run, it might not be sustainable. You'll keep doing that over and over again. But if we change our diet, and in this case, if we allow oil to stay where it belongs, and not explore more oil, I think we'll have addressed the question, the real elephant in the room. So for me, I think it also brought in the aspect of asking the real question, because now it's, do we need to keep by carbon credits, do we need to keep exploring, knowing that we continue polluting the environment, or do we really need to get rid of it? And I think when we approach the whole story in that angle, then we start driving morality and the whole point of protecting our environment in a fair way. So that it's been an incredible conversation. I enjoyed it. I was just interested, and I was just taking notes down here, and I think we are headed in the right direction when I hear such voices from faith-based organization, and you realize that faith-based organization have huge influence in our modern society. So when you hear such voices, it's just a highlight that the migration has started, and and thankfully that we are that medium that is projecting this voice, which gives us even more joy to doing this. So Collins, what do we have next?
Yeah, I think next we are going to get to hear from the East African Campuses and Colleges Green Network. We have to share a bit of a small story about their work and what they have been doing in Kenya and the East Africa, and tend to just also see how they have led the It's For You campaign with their projects, and also listen to some of their sentiments regarding this global crisis on climate.
Okay.
So over to you, Tim, if you have the documentary ready.
It is ready for sure.
ECCGN is East Africa Campuses and Colleges Green Network. It brings together students across East Africa so that we can champion and rally for environment-friendly actions, and also we can be able to empower and also empower and impact a community environmental-wise. We also empower people in leadership to take the spaces that have gaps, especially in leadership and in climate. Okay, our offices are in Kitengela in Kenya, and also Nairobi HH Towers in Kenya, but we are also based in other countries including Tanzania, Rwanda, Uganda, Djibouti, and we are hoping to establish more. We have a charter at DRC and Gambia, but we are yet to expand it to an African, but for now we are just in East Africa. We are East Africa named, but we are beyond East Africa. We've been able to reach out to very many campuses. There is a very good response in campuses, and many students are looking for the platform where they can be able to exhibit what they really feel about environment, all the confusion, and when it's all brought together, and now we can give a light. So mostly has been about impacting the community through the students and planting trees, and especially at Technical University of Kenya, we do cleanups because it's around Nairobi, so we do cleanups like what we did artwork. We do an intergenerational mentorship where we go to primary schools, secondary schools, and we're able to use the students now who we have already empowered to pass the same message. The event was very fun. Interacting with young people like me is very, very fun. Getting to see how they use their time, not in drugs, not another coverage of what drugs is doing to young people, but it's a coverage of what young people want to do. This is what we want to do for livelihood. This is what we have on the table. This is what we can do for you. So for me, that young people have come, they have their own talents, they have decided to take the right path. It has been very impactful, especially for It's For You, that you're passing the message that it's not about boring lectures and reports on how bad the climate is. If you take like an action of a person who just gave a spoken word on climate, and then they said, this is the impact I'm having. It's like the hummingbird story, the little that you have that you're giving to the world to change the environment, to be a better place for everyone. Well, we've been able to bring young people together, which is sometimes a task. We've also been able to create livelihoods to different grassroots communities by changing their ways of climate actions to something better. We've been able, like the director was able to go to make the pact here ICA, and we've also been able to develop charters where now the young people can take initiatives at their own campuses. So, which is like personal. Like now you have to take in your own campus, like in JKUAT, you have to plant trees because you're in JKUAT and that is your environment. That's like your home 4 years. So those are amongst our achievements. Our other achievements have been like the street dance, being able to connect with the young generation and the older generation, being able to have games like with the Climate Free Kenya, where you're taught about environment using games. So those are amongst our few, but very, very, personally, I'm very proud of the achievements, having run like for 6 months. My parting shot is your action. That is what matters. No matter how little or big it seems, your action, global warming will happen, whether it's to your children or to us or to our children, it will happen. It will touch us in various ways. And if you're not able to act right now, then tomorrow might be too late.
Great there. Nice conversation there by, uh, yeah, Madam Irene from ESCCGN, and great insights that she has highlighted, and it was interesting to see the incredible work this youth-led organization has done. And for me, I think what I identified with, is how they've been able to engage with, connect with both, both generation, both the young and the old generation using music. Because I believe we're living in an intergenerational society whereby young people are supposed to learn from the old generation, and also the old generation have a responsibility of sharing the experiences to the young people so that they can be able to impact them, and create bridging that gap for ESCCG. And I found it very great and interesting. What about you, Collins?
Yes, Tim. I agree totally with what you're saying, and I think for me, what inspires me is the passion that this team from the East African campuses and colleges Green Network have actually been driven by their commitment and the passion to reach out. And as you mentioned, it's not just in the universities, but they have been in the communities, they have been in the schools. They are doing quite a lot, and the aspect that they are bringing in the formal and the informal aspects that can actually raise awareness on climate issues, which for me it's really inspiring. Maybe we can get to also check the documentary they did and see how also the kind of work and the rest they are actually doing. If you have it, team.
Until it's raining acid, you won't plant trees, you won't reduce on carbon, using fossil fuels, you won't. But then when it starts raining acids and when probably you start having wildfires everywhere, now that's when you start getting the alarm.
It is very evident because in the previous years, there was no El Nino.
The situation is compounded by the inability to access remote areas where there is already a humanitarian crisis.
But right now, even as a country, we are facing that threat about El Nino. When you go to the Middle East, there's about heat wave, whereby it is very devastating. When you go to the North, the summer and winter, right now, it's not the way it used to be. These are some of the catastrophic effects of climate action and climate injustice, And that's why if we don't take action, if we don't act now, we don't have a future generation.
A danger with Africa is that you're not a developed continent. We are developing. So that's a danger that you have on our side. Yeah, we don't have policies that are well enacted. That's why we are worried too. Okay, so should we be worried? We should. Government officials go everywhere. We had the Africa Climate Summit. Is anything being done to follow up? Probably we have a holiday to plant trees, but for how long? Which sustainable actions are we taking? Which permanent actions are we taking? That's why we should be worried, because global warming is going to happen if we don't take live actions.
Life, everything has got a limit, but when it comes to mining and use of fossil fuel, there's no limit. There's overexploitation of fossil fuels, which is the main cause to climate injustice.
We should get alarmed because the reports we get every day, like we'll have a COP28, we'll have new agreements, no one is following up on them. So the thing is, it's either we're not being honest with ourselves, and that's the problem, because you have first to identify your problem. So human activities is one of the major causes of global warming. So why we should be worried is because no one is ready to put down that I earn livelihood by mining coal. So I want to stop to have a better future.
For You campaign, it's actually a global initiative being spearheaded by 3 organizations. So ESCGN, and then Rethinking Choices, based in the UK, and World Climate School, driven by Inga. She's based in Norway. And basically, the campaign is purely about raising voices, especially for the young people, to be able to say, look, climate change is indeed real, and we have had all these discussions that happen at very high level, maybe in boardrooms, and we understand even COP28 coming through this December in Dubai.
So as ESCGN, we are trying to bring youth together through their different crafts to just come out and talk about these climate issues and create a change from the ground going up.
So basically, the It's For You campaign, like you can see, this is a global campaign that champions for putting a limit to the use of oil, coal, and gas.
We were having everyone represented. the children, the youth, and the adults. Not quite much, but they were represented.
One of the things that we are trying to send out, especially on the basis of the ESGN, which is a student network, is to rally youth who are actually, the majority, to take full participation in decision making and active engagement on climate matters. So the reason why it's given the hashtag "It's for You" is because in most cases when we are talking about climate change, most people, if you ask around and you tell somebody what's COP, they have no idea what COP is. They only hear, we see it on the news. And in Kenya recently hosted the African Climate Summit. So we want to tell the world that, COP is you.
So mi naitwa Washington Tete, and my group is Madare Kids Talent Hub. Tutatoka pale Madare. On any social media handles tunapata pale Madare Kids Talent Hub. Hapo IG, Facebook, TikTok, anywhere. So si u dance na pia si u do fashioning, tunafanya fashion na pia si uimba. So tunafanya kila kitu pia huko kwa hiyo organization ya tree planting. So tunafanya vitu mingi. It's for you inamaanisha ni jukumu la msee yote amwe kitu anafanya. Amwe anafanya kitu right. Ni jukumu ya kila msee mwenye anaambiwa it's for you. Ajaribu kufikiria kitu anafanya it's right. Ama kitu anajaribu kufanya inatakikana. Kutumia talent especially kama mimi na dance na wenzangu. Tunatumia hiyo ku express information that environment change is very important. Inaweza help our nature to change. Kama hii time tulisikia tunaweza kuwa na hii El Nino. In case tukitengeneza environment change, it make a good difference. Mimi na feel iko sawa because itanisaidia mimi na group yangu peke yake. Itasaidia watu wengi.
So history ya Cloud9 inaenda back to 3 years ago. Tulipatana through different ways. Wengine ni shule, wengine ni mtaa, wengine tumegrow pamoja, unaona. So tukaform crew. Sisi wote interest ilikuwa moja. Kama kawaida kudance alafu tafuta ganji, unaona. So tukapatana tukasema situfanye ka group kushinda individual. So history inaenda back to 3 years.
Kitu tunaweza ambia is climate inaanza na sisi. Because the future generation inatoka kwetu. So if we don't work on it now, our future generation will have no green arts to like go to the forest wanaenda kujibamba, wanaenda kwa pub kujibamba. So it starts with you, it starts with me, and it starts with all of us.
One, young people have got brilliant ideas. We have the solution. We have the solution, and we have the energy to bring positive change regarding environmental conservation and climate action. About young people, we find that many young people have got a lifespan, more age to live in this world. They will face the effect of climate injustice more than the older generation.
Viking Dance Company. Si tu piga dance, acting na kidogo performing arts huku kuchora hapa na pale.
So far I think I've tried in my school, for example, Technical University. I've made a change through picking some trashes and putting them in the right places, educating people on the importance of keeping our environment clean and so on. Yeah. okay, because we are in this generation, nobody is gonna respond. Not everybody is gonna respond positively for everything. So there are those who are responding positively, and for those who are responding negatively.
You're welcome to join EACCGN. We are at eaccgn.org on our website, and then you'll see the link to join us. We are also on all social medias at EACCGN, at ea.gn. I think that is on Twitter. But my parting shot is your action. That is what matters. No matter how little or big it seems, your action, global warming will happen, whether it's to your children or to us or to our children, it will happen and it touches in various ways. And if you're not able to act right now, then tomorrow might be too late.
We are not giving up for those who are responding negatively. We are still pushing them because, yeah, we know it's for us.
Doyo, chair. Everywhere pollution, the air that you breathe is filled with dust, affecting our lungs, water is all germs invested, our parent investment, no medical bills and improper skills. As the pollution increase, our lives are at risk in the streets. Every eye is shaded with tears. Should I say it loud and clear? Our future is fueled on our past and the present is here. Hope Mother Earth will hear. Our people are filled with stress and fear. This shows that the end of the world is near. I'm asking this question, where is the shade? Cheer, cheer. It's for you.
It's for you. It's for you.
It's for you. And it's for you.
It's for you. It's for you.
Yes, Tim.
Yeah, Colin. Nice.
Yeah, you can see the vibrant young people and their passion and the excitement and the joy to actually connect. And the very reason we have the hashtag about this for you is actually directing your spending to the things that matter. And our call is, I think it's time we get this message out there that if we are able to redirect our little coins to projects such as these young people that actually are bringing real genuine change in our communities, then I think that's our cause. How did you find the documentary, Tim?
It was so enlightening. It was it was so interesting to see how young people are using their skills and energy to push for sustainability, good environment, and you realize that their artistic nature, their artistic gifts, help are so top notch that communicating this information becomes so easy. As opposed to using the scientific jargons, terms, which would not make the information get home. But once it's channeled in a way that relates with everybody, then it becomes easy. Personally, I love music. Well, I'm not a good singer, but music helps me, ease and everything. Music simplifies things for me. So, and I believe the same thing is that when we use the things that uh, are so dear to us to communicate an important message, then it becomes more effective. And it's interesting that is what the young people have been able to do. And talk of rallying the huge number of young people, that is incredible, Collins. I must agree on that. And I think that is the way it should be. The move has already started, and it's time for the world to align itself accordingly, to allow the young people do what they do best, fostering positive change.
Yes, indeed. I agree with you, Tim. If you want to get the young people, participate or engage, then actually you have to get them at the point where, the things that make them connect, okay, where they find their passion. And that's why I agree with you. The sports, the arts, the music is actually a very powerful tool that we can actually advance on, building awareness on the crisis and climate change, and as well as hope. Just bringing in the hope aspect that yes, together we can. And I really like the last aspect about the video that you have to take a step to make the change that actually will protect the future generations. And so I look forward to I think they are still doing the updating the documentary, and we're looking forward to have it fully done in the course of this week, and I'm looking forward to that actually. Yes.
Great.
So what do you have? Yes. Sorry.
It's okay. It's okay, Collins. So in a few minutes we'll be having our live guest. Will be joining us shortly, but allow me to comment on. Allow me to dive back to the conversation we're having about the young people. I think it is Mahatma Gandhi. I think he's been quoted in that documentary when he says that be the change that you want to see in the world, and that speaks volumes because at times we can be so busy shouting out on what ought to be done, pointing fingers on who is doing the wrong thing, and we forget to see what is in our space, what we are supposed to do as people, in the society at an individual level. And I think with that quote, it also keeps us on toes that yes, as far as as far as there's this challenge that we are in, there's this crisis that we are in. There's that one thing that we can do. Again, the hummingbird story. There's that one thing that we can do to make the situation better. And so even and then this changes the posture of our heart, even as we approach, addressing the effects of climate change. That we should not focus so much on what other people need to do, ought to do, but we should first ask ourselves, what is in our space? What can we do? What is that one thing that I can do to make the situation better? And I think that for me has resonated and sobered my mind. And also, I think in yesterday's prayer and meditation segment, we were taught, a quote was shared to us about Michelle Obama, where he says that when people go low, you go high. So and I think this resonates with Mahatma Gandhi, that be the change that you want to see in the world. That even when people are doing crazy things about the environment, you can choose to go high by doing the right thing, and that will go a long way to change the whole scenario and also influence other people to positive change. Yes, I see our guest is here, Collins. He's Mr. Hawi Rapudo. So I will welcome him on stage. So Mr. Hawi, if you don't mind, maybe you can put on your camera. And then, yes, there he is, Mr. Hawi Rapudo, joining us
Hi,
from Kenya.
Tim.
Hi, good to see you, sir.
Good to see
Yes,
you. I'm in Kilifi now.
you're Kilifi.
Hi,
Okay, that's
sir.
nice.
I'm
How
fine.
are you doing?
Glad to have you today. I'm doing well.
Oh, I can see you guys are setting fireworks everywhere.
Thank you so much, sir.
That's how we know it's lovely. You can. You also have some fireworks.
I'm here now you can lead me through, then I can come in.
Okay, thank you. So maybe you can just start by introducing yourself to our audience and tell us who you are, what you do, and where you're joining us from.
So you want me to introduce myself?
Yes,
okay,
sure.
My name is Rapudo Hawi from Kijiji. From Kijiji. I'm delighted to join all the way from Kilifi. It's a pleasure to be part of this movement. It is for you, everybody, and I believe this movement is quite vigorous, and I've been able to join it through as a Kijiji, and it's a pleasure to be part of this process. Thank you. We are a community organization, led organization that engage in digital transformation and also looking at issues that are affecting people, including climate change. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome, Mr. Hawi. And maybe to start us off, well, maybe you can share some of the projects that you embark on as Kijiji to our audience.
Okay, thank you, Timothy, and it's always a pleasure to have you. And I always feel at home when I'm engaging with in this process, because one is that I believe everybody has something to do for this world, and change is something that for Kijiji, it's about the people and what they do for their life. So what we've done in the recent past, like the course of last week, we were doing internet deployment in one of the Lake Basin community, because we felt that they have been left behind, and they have been left because they are not able to be part of the national processes, especially in issues of disasters that have been affecting communities. So the internet is there to uplift their digital literacy, give them skills, and also to ensure that at the end of the day, they're able to participate in digital economy, and also be able to capture real-time information so that they can be able to deal with rapid issues of climate change. So that's what we have for now.
Great, Mr. Harry. And maybe you can share with us how your experience has been, as you lead Kijiji to in digitalizing some of these areas where that are not yet connected with internet. Seeing a village or a society that has not been linked to internet before, and you go there and you digitalize the entire place. How does this make you feel as a person?
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I can say one of the things that is happening now, the cost of living is rising very high. And you find that everybody has moved from using the traditional method of communication, and their life has been defined by a little gadget called the mobile phone. And the mobile phone has a lot of effects. One is that some of the materials that are harvested from the mobile phone are coming from communities that have been left behind. And you find that exploration of minerals has become very challenging, and many multinationals are not giving back to communities, like you talk about titanium and uranium and those kind of things. So what you're saying is that if technology is something that is going to define communities and the communities are left aside, it's important for us to see how we can ensure that from the urban gardens to the renewable energy, and communities need to come up with sustainable solutions where they can be able to deal with their own issue. Like right now, you find that issues of coal, where communities are being told that there'll be a lot of investments. Like there's a place next to where I stay, where they've discovered coal and they've discovered gold. Find that those communities have been able to be removed from that. So the government is not giving them alternative. The second thing is that we find that communities, because of lack of jobs, many young people have been able to dig soil to make bricks. So we find that there is a lot of soil erosion, and there's a lot of soil degradations in those areas because there's burning of charcoal, which trees are cut down. And also we have a lot of challenge where the leftovers are dumped aside, and you find that there's no clear waste recycling and dumping of waste. So you find that they're able to go to the rivers and able to interfere with the life of the fish, and you find there's been a lot of depletion of fish within the lakes. Thank you so much.
welcome, Harry. And you mentioned something that as we are starting about, connectivity and infrastructure, whereby, it's been a challenge. I believe it's a challenge in providing digital connectivity in some of the areas where, you don't have reliable internet access. So maybe to ask a question, what what infrastructure or technology do you implement to bridge the digital divide in this area?
Yes, thank you. Just to give a case, like almost 2 weeks ago, we went to purchase equipments that are required for internet installation. We found out that it had gone up by 30%, which affected our budget. You find that some of the gadgets that are not they are not subsidized by the government. So you find that communities cannot be able to purchase, and then also government has standards. So like for the mast, you cannot use anything apart from the metal, the aluminium metal that is. There are people in Brazil who have been able to come up with masts that are used like the bamboo mast and things like that, which are more durable and more eco-friendly. So you find that because of the laws that we are having, we cannot be able to come up with innovations and come up with things that uh, you can adapt within the reach of those communities, like even ensure that local resources, local knowledge, and indigenous knowledge are adapted to this. So this becomes very difficult, especially for communities that want to embark on the pathway of information technology, because one is that we're able to use gadgets that are not from Africa and they're very expensive. You cannot be able to do innovation, and some of the schools that people are learning from find that they are not able to, some of the subjects they're not able to come up with alternative solutions. The other thing also in terms of electric, there are a lot of electricity breakdowns. Like you find that within the last mile of these communities, you find that many of them do not know if they're able to access electricity. So they're using paraffin, and if they're using electricity, it's not stable. So you find that the internet communication becomes very challenging. So you find that if you're dealing with, maybe you're selling your goods on a digital platform, you find that you're not the buyer might have left a lot of messages, and there's no real-time buying, there's no real-time communication. So you find that many people are able to lose market. And then also the last thing is that you find that the technicians in these areas are very scarce. So you find that people were able to learn about this because they're losing very big names, and the big like things like when you talk about artificial intelligence, some of these things exist within the African culture. So you find that these things are also some things that are affecting us. And then the last point is that you find that technology cannot work effectively where there's a lot of wind and there's a lot of tree cover. So if you find that some of the things that we learned is that some of the masks that we have here are of low quality. We find that the standardization is also affecting some of this community. So at the end of the day, you find also dumping of computers. The computers that we use are second-hand. Find that some of them are dumped here, they're not of high quality, and you find that the speeds are very low. So you find that you're not able to have good bandwidth so that you can be able to compete with the world now. Thank you.
That's interesting, Harry. And maybe to talk about youth empowerment, which I believe it's one of your strongest pillar, and maybe to ask or maybe to just share with our audience some of the initiatives that you have specifically that are meant to empower young people in these communities, and also are the trainings or rather the educational resources provided to enhance digital digital skills among the youth. How impactful has it has they been to our people, to these young people? Sorry for that.
Thank you, Tim. It's a very interesting area, and it's a very interesting discussion, because one of the things that has happened, you find that young people in Africa are still learning things like Microsoft Word, Excel, and things like that. You cannot compete with a child who is doing coding in America, who is doing things like cybersecurity within the lowest class. So you find that our syllabus really affects. At times, we find that our syllabus is able to affect us. Uh, are you back?
Yes, sir.
Are you
Yes, sir.
back?
Yes, sir. Continue.
Okay, I was just saying our syllabus, we find that our syllabus does not cater for training of young. And this is something that we have seen as a gap at KGGA. So one of the things that we are doing, first of all, is to ensure that young people have digital skills. How do we ensure that? Is that one, they know how to browse through the internet, so that they're able to find the safe places, they're able to find where to get content, what kind of content can they be able to share. And this is required because one is that you find that we need a lot of skills. So one of the areas that we are keen on is artificial intelligence. So we are training young people on artificial intelligence. We are training young people on cyber security. We are training young people on issues of robotics. We are training young people on issues of Internet of Things. We are training young people on issues of social media, because we believe this is the future of work. And this, if they talk about future of work, the works that we are doing, which were traditional, you find that young people now are not interested in going to a work that will take almost 8 hours standing on the room. So you find that people will want to use their gadgets, and you can be able to make money through your gadgets. How do you make money, and how do you monetize some of the content that you are using every now and then? So that becomes a very big area for youth empowerment. And that's why for us as KGGA, we believe that if that is the pathway that we are taking, then that is something that is for the future. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome, Hawi. And it's interesting to hear, share of these, programs that you're taking these young people through. And maybe the next question would be, how impactful has these initiatives been to these young people in terms of making them earn livelihood?
Yes, one of the things that we've come to realize is that if you go to the content that we have within the internet, you find that content right now does not reflect on what we see on the ground. And content is about people, content is about education, content is about knowledge. So you find that, let's say, for example, the technological innovations that we have, let's say, like to reduce greenhouse emission, to reduce, increase energy efficiency, and also to promote sustainable solutions. You find that these things are not, because one is that young people do not have a lot of time to use within the internet space to come up with innovation, because the spaces that are there, you find that the spaces that are there are spaces that are not safe. So you find that many of them are engaging on cybercrime, they're engaging in cyberbullying, they're engaging in things like that. So you find that it affects us. It affects us because one is that this is the culture that is being pushed down. And if we are not able to protect our young people, like even to come up with people who can use, let's say like an example, some of the trees that we had in some of the communities that we used to use, where you can just go and pick some indigenous tree, boil it up and take it, and then you're able to solve your problem of headache. And you find these things are sold within the streets of Nairobi. But this process has not been monetized enough. And you find that this is an area that needs a lot of training, needs a lot of sharing of information, because the future of work is not green for young people. Another issue that I would love to share is the issue of the, let's say we talk about the culture and some of the languages that we use. You find that localization, because we're talking about climate change, localization of certain things that we use. There's a way we used to predict our planting. There's a way we used to predict uh, our harvesting time. There's a time you could recognize and know that the floods were going to hit the places where we stay, and even if there was a possibility of fire. And these things existed within the community. So you find that there is no space, or say if they are there, they're limited space, and they're decaying each and every day. And you find that the old people who have this kind of knowledge are quickly dying out. So we need to collect this and be able to put this into a space. And I think it is for you. It is for you as a space. It can be a space that can be able to engage young people in this, so that when you're having a young person who is doing biotechnology, is able to interact also with some of the realities that they have on the ground, and able to pick up some of this aspect in their doing their thesis, so that we can have some of this information stored somewhere. Thank you.
You're welcome, Hawi, and that is so great. And I think that forms my a basis of my next question, which was on environmental sustainability, whereby my question is there a way that you've anchored environmental sustainability practices?
I didn't get that one.
I'm asking, is there a way, or rather, do you have a mechanism that you've anchored and environmental sustainability practices in your programs? Do you have programs where you get to teach young people on some of the environmental sustainability concepts?
Yes. I think one of the ways is very clear, because one is that counties are able to come up with climate financing bills. So one of the things is that if counties this can be devolved within the ward level, where we can be able to engage young people who are in youth groups, women groups, and even the border groups, so that they can come up with innovative ways, and which can be supported with some of the MCS and some of the local communities that are. Like one of the things of when you're talking about having just fruit trees as a project, that is something that can be adapted. And you're talking about where do we take these fruits, is that technology comes and plays a role in this effort, where you can be able to come up with adapt some of the technologies that have been tested in the world, and be able to see how can we have mango which can be used as a juice, and mango which can be used as medicine, mango which can be used as food. And we find that this becomes a very important. And when you have counties that are partnering with their own people, then you're able to see these counties are able to make a lot of money, so that we can not only look at building roads as the only way. We find that within the county, because these are the people, the governor can be able to say that we are able to create 50,000 jobs through the climate financing fund. And we find that the market will also be expanded, because you find that if you have 5 or 6 counties that are engaging, maybe one is engaging in fishing, like within their ponds, and another one is also doing tomatoes or potatoes, like the ones you see in Nyahururu. Where how can they be able to use even the byproducts, let's say like you use the potato peels, because we've seen people doing this on YouTube, where they've been able to come up with innovations where they'll be able to crush the potato and mix with a few other ingredients and sell them as a medicine. So these are things that we need to explore, and these are things that can be adapted by climate financing bills within the county. Thank you.
Collins, maybe to answer to ask a few questions as well. Collins?
Thank you, Hawi and Mr. One of the key things that is actually I'm passionate about is the rural digital ecosystem and how we can actually support rural communities to actually harness the power of the emerging technologies. Particularly maybe for me, I'll ask in your work, how have you been able to engage women in this project, and how has it been for you through this journey? I know you work a lot with the young people. I wanted just to hear how are the women taking up, especially in the rural.
Thank you, Sir Collins. I know you're having a challenge of the internet, first of all. That is one thing that we're trying to solve. So next time we'll be able to have stable internet. We'll be able to liaise and have a communication and be able to have dialogue, because that is becoming a problem. It is becoming a problem because what is the solutions that we don't? We find that as young people we cannot be able to communicate because we don't have reliable internet. So one of the things we are able to do is that we have what is called community networks, which are networks that are started by communities, or like coming up with a CBO, and you say our work today will just to ensure that within that area we have internet. Why internet? You have like you have people who are engaging on mobility. When they engage on mobility, let's say like we find that people are able to use put their money in a manageable way where border groups instead of spending the whole day, they can be able to access customer as through your mobile phone. You can be able to reach out to someone and be able to transfer some of this money to also a mobile bank somewhere. So you find that the economy of scale is able to move from one place to another. The second thing that you have to say that we need skills. And the skills that we need is to compete with other people in the skill. The skills that we have in 21st century are no longer about the traditional skill. It's about skill. You need to be an all-round person. You can be a border person, and at the same time you can be a social influencer. How can you do this? Because you can now be able to put, and you've seen people who have been able to put the videos, the storylines, the practice within the platform. So you find that you're able to do this, and this can capitalize, and you're able to subsidize some of the things that you do. Another thing, sorry for that. Another thing that you are able to do is that you are able to engage into a process where you are able to ensure that people have like artificial intelligence. People are using chat GTP now. How do you use chat GTP to better your education? People are always looking at chat GTP, bad Google on the internet as a bad thing. But we find that as young people, because where we are going, we find that we're able to interact and we're able to use this kind of platform to make your work easy. So how do you research further? How do you read? Because these are things that, how do you use Spotify? How do you make sure that you're able to listen to people who can give you inspiration? And you find that when you're able to listen to such kind, instead of spending time on WhatsApp trying to bash a politician, how can you come up with substance? People who have also been seeing people who have been able to have kitchen gardens in their own spaces. How can you be able to have kitchen garden in a 4x4 space? And we find that this information is available on the internet. So we need to tell young people, and you need to tell them that this is what is available, and also to tell them this is where you can get the market, and this is where you can get it cheaply, this is where you can sell it cheaply, and this is also where you can get technical knowledge. And that becomes part of education, because education is changing. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Howie. In your engagement now, if you look around, probably with the digital transformation and the efforts that the government is making to bring, the digital tools and literacy to the rural communities, how has been your engagement between your communities and probably the learning institutions? How do you bring that linkage in your work the combination of the communities that we have talked about, and probably maybe the schools and maybe higher learning institutions within your area.
Okay. One, when I started this journey, I was in Nairobi, and I started this journey almost 15 years ago. And I wanted to give back to my community, and I didn't know what to do. So I met a group of young people who are very inspirational, and these young people are doing amazing things within their communities. They are doing a very amazing things within their community. So these young people were able to engage, and were able to come up with what is called a community. Now, it's a very simple thing. Ensuring that internet is within, and ensuring that we have what is called digital transformation in your community. So I was able to go back to a community called Ugunja, that is in Siaya, and be able to engage with the assistant chief and able to engage with the MP. And we told them that this thing, we can put our efforts together. We started a society, and in this society, which is called Kijiji, we were able to bring them. So we have a hub, an innovation hub, where they can come every now and then, browse, use their time, able to learn, bring people who can mentor them, share information, and also bring people who can give them different kind of tech. And also some of the things that also we are trying to do and we are looking forward to do is also to
Okay, I think since Hawi is experiencing a bit of internet connectivity, we shall be getting him back in a while.
Yeah, for sure, it happens. It's internet. At times it's on your side, and another time it's not. It's working against you. So let's just bear with him as he connects back. But interesting conversation there, Collins. From Hawi, and how he's trying to digitalize. Those. It's interesting to realize that even the areas that are not yet digitalized, and him identifying that niche and then trying to bridge it, it's really incredible. And using it for to impact young people. I think for me that is an interesting thing, and it's a cause worth pursuing. And what has caught my attention is how they are managing to do this, to promote livelihood for these young people, and also to ensure that they have access to information. That has been incredibly amazing, because I mean in the 21st century, information is power. And helping these young people to have access to information, I think it's a big step to helping them, empowering them to be great people in the society, and also people of impact in the society. What's your thought on that?
Yes, Tim, I agree totally. I agree totally with your sentiments. I have been in the rural communities with young people and women, and how is describing something we're actually also working around with communities in Kajiado area, in some urban informal settlements in Nairobi. What interests me so much is how he's able to actually ensure that first the community has access to actually the internet, and then kind of transform that into opportunities where the young people and the community can actually turn this into, as you mentioned, the livelihoods aspect of it. For me, which I believe it's what's needed. It's not just about the literacy aspect that people have, access to internet, but how do you also provide, the opportunities, the linkages, the networks around that, so that in a way, what we call the rural economy picks up to help these, the young people to put money in their pocket. And I think for me, that's what inspiring from Hawi's story. In most cases, from my experience, you realize in most cases people focus on you want to get some internet to an area, okay, which is not bad. But I think a further step is actually also harnessing that power and how it taps into the different economics and opportunities that these people can actually tap into to either boost their startup businesses and in a way also be able to look through the value chain in terms of the market, agriculture. He mentions about some project about the kitchen gardens, and particularly also ideas about the women. And in that sense, it builds, this trust aspect that we have actually been talking about in our It's For You campaign. That the power to boost the rural economies is far beyond just making sure that they have access to internet. It's actually, leveraging and giving them also the networks and the opportunities from, the outside market, so that in that way they actually can sustain their business ideas. So for me, it's something I applaud Hawi so much, and I look forward to actually connecting with their story and with their groups as well. Yes, Tim.
I agree. It's a story that everyone would want to listen and watch, and maybe duplicate it to other parts of the world,
Yeah.
because if, especially here in Africa, I think the greatest resource we have, among the greatest resource we have, is that we are a youthful continent, and with an average age of the Africans being 19 years old. So that's really a youthful continent, and empowering them to with such skills, with such information, then that sets us at a very integral pedestal as a continent, whereby we can be able to you know uh, empower and become great people in the world, and also drive change, and change not only in the environment space but also in other spheres. So it's a conversation that I believe will not end here. We'll take it to the next level, and I can see Mr. Howie still having some challenge in connecting back, and maybe we can have him any other time. It's fine. And Collins, tell us what next do we have online.
Okay, so thanks, Jim. Probably we can. I thought of getting into the ECGN story and getting to hear more about this the amazing work this group is doing, and also just taking into that a few activities and the interviews that the ECGN team has been doing. I thought we could just go back to get, if you have a recording of their past projects. We could get into that.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Just a minute.
Okay. And remember, team, I'll be getting to request my song from Larry at the end of the show. So
it's okay.
Just,
It's okay. I have it for you.
all right.
Okay. Uh, Maybe I can see, as I'm sorting it out, I can see Mr. Howie is back with us. Collins, maybe you can just, get to hear his maybe final thoughts, and then we carry on.
Okay, Tim, thank you. Sorry for the interruption. There was an electric blackout. So now I'm back. So I think we can wind it up. I think I'm happy this process. I'm happy about what you're doing I'm with some of my colleagues here. We're just trying to visit also another community network in Kilifi, which has been doing a lot of work on the issue of mangroves and issues to deal with the ocean and effects to have in the communities and the issues of the floods. So we are saying that communities need to use internet to change lives. They need to take the opportunities that is there within the internet space and ensure that they use the new digital tools that are available. Because some of those digital tools are very important. It's not easy to learn through them, but the internet makes it more easy so that you can be able to access people, you can be able to engage with people. And as much as we were discussing, it's important to use indigenous knowledge also to preserve it, because some of this indigenous knowledge is also going away. We need to adapt to methods that can be able to safeguard some of the climate change effects that we're seeing within the region. So I think, thank you. Or what do you think, Tim?
You're much welcome, Hawi. And maybe before I let you go, we are in this in the COP28 and participating in our 12 days of COP. And maybe I would want to ask you a question. What's your thought about the conversations going on COP, and also what does it mean to make the world a better place for you?
Thank you. So let's stay in touch. Thank you.
No, how we know? I've not. It's a question I've asked you. It's a question I've asked you. Maybe I can take it
Yes.
again.
Yes.
My question was, during these 12 days of COP, we're having this segment, and what words do you have? What sentiments can you share in the ongoing conversation about COP28? And what does it mean to make the world a better place for you?
Okay. Thank you, Tim. One of the things is about there is knowledge existing outside there. Some of the knowledge is something that we don't see very easily. So I praise the It's For You for bringing young people all over the world and discussing about the COP28 and what it means for them. Because one of the things is that little by little steps that we do, whether we are able to use infrastructure that are adapted to our technology, like uh, let's say communities that have used bamboo, some people able to bring down the cost of equipments, able to also deal with the issue of renewable energy where you can adapt instead of relying on only electricity. That becomes very important. And then also the issue of mobility. How do you ensure that you are able to adapt to mobility that can be able to be monetized and be able to give you, because the future of work is changing and the future of work is found within the internet space. So I think this is very important, and I think for COP26, it's important to also have allocation in climate financing, so that we have projects that can be able to adapt uh, initiatives that can be done with young people within the world level, so that we can have we not talk about issues of young people going uh, to unblock wells. We talk about young people sitting down in hubs, coming up with projects like even coming up with projects of waste recycling or e-waste, some things which can be able to solve the world. So I believe this is something very important, and I look forward to this platform to be able to push some of the things that, because we are able to see even the issue of just roads and road safety is also something to do with climate change. How do we come up with roads which are better? How do we come up use some of the waste to build some products that can be adapted with some of the communities? Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And maybe as we close this, Harry, we are doing a segment in our 12 days of COP that we are calling it Book of Trees. We are calling it Book of Trees, whereby we are sharing stories about a tree that we connect with. It could be a tree that you planted a long time when you growing up. It could be a tree that you planted recently, or it could also be a tree that you.
Yes, I want to tell you about a case where we just and one of my when we finished installing the mast, we planted 8 trees, which showed that we care for the diversities and we care for, and we were able to use as the symbol of trees are very important and they'll play a lot of work during the process of engagement with young people. One is that these trees are fruit trees. These trees were trees that can provide shade. These were trees that could provide, be able to act as windbreakers. And also these trees that we're able to plant are trees that can be monetized and be able to be looked as investment in future.
To our audience, I want to tender my apologies for today's session. We'll have to end it early, 18 minutes before the usual time, 3 hours time, because we're experiencing some blackout here. But we shall continue it from there. Tomorrow, we promise, will not have will not experience this. So today we end it at there, and thank you so much for being so patient with us. And as usual, let us sign out with music from Rally. Until tomorrow, God bless you and have a good night. And let's tune into our third session.